Bankers, accountants, financial professionals, and insurance agents of Reddit, what's the worst financial decision you've seen a client make? Had a client who was extremely wealthy about 8 years ago tell us he was no longer going to use our services. Last year we get an extremely angry phone call from his wife asking us why we haven't been filing their taxes. We showed her the paperwork where her husband said he was no longer going to use our services. And then shit hit the fan. This dude apparently just decided he wasn't going to pay taxes anymore and didn't file a return for 8 years and had been lying to his wife. They were rich and owed almost $1.4 million in taxes, not including interest and penalties. And oh yeah, they got absolutely fried by the IRS. If you are in a relationship with someone, you need to be involved in financial decisions. Never let one party handle all of the money and make all of the decisions. That is how bad things happen in both business and in relationships. I've seen people finance cars at over 30% interest, paying $500 more for an 8-year-old Mustang, and will end up paying well over 2x the car's value, assuming they pay the loan off. Edit. Since this kinda blew up, here's a SAR for all the active duty, American, military people. Any loan you took out prior to either enlistment or deployment is eligible to have the rate reduced to either 6.99 or 7.99%. Google it before you call your bank, as it's been a couple years and laws change. All you have to do is call your creditor and provide them with your orders and they have to reduce the rate, even retroactively, to the date you deployed or enlisted. Again. Google it. Not my client. Saw a guy invest about $600k in a startup. He confirmed in the 5 pages agreement that he was fully informed about everything going on. Please, if you invest in that size, ask a lawyer to at least review the agreement. Needless to say, said guy's net worth is $600k less now. A private company announced a special dividend to all shareholders as of date of record 1 month in the future. $1.30/share dividend. There was an option holder with 300,000 options at a $0.10 strike price. He did not exercise them. Had he exercised his options for $30,000, he would have been paid $390,000 the following month. I had a client buy numismatic gold coins with an entire retirement account. She bought 266k worth of coins at almost double the price of bullion. I got the gold salesman on the phone and asked him to justify the reasoning, and he said it was because the dollar was paper money and worth nothing and that gold was going to go to 10,000 a coin. I asked him what he exchanged this gold for and he said, well, she paid me dollars. Then I said, why would you accept a worthless currency for your rapidly appreciating gold currency? He cursed at me and hung up and said I didn't know what I was talking about. I still haven't met a gold salesman that can answer this. Their whole pitch is that the dollar isn't worth anything, but they happily take them in exchange for gold coins. The whole thing is shite. Poor lady. She can't sell them now even with gold bullion as high as it is for anything close to what she bought them for. I am a fully registered advisor, just to disclose. Worked in a family law firm. Way too common of an occurrence is a client ignoring the lawyer's advice for a balance separation agreement and instead ambushing their spouse with an agreement that says they are getting everything. Now, instead of a relatively amicable breakup and maybe some mediation to sort out some sticking points, it's tens of thousands if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in litigation costs. If you are going through a divorce, play nice. The only ones that win in a bad divorce are the lawyers. I'm a lawyer who worked on a case where an investment advisor was stealing money from his client's funds to pay for his own lavish lifestyle. Red flag right there. Don't trust an investment advisor who's always jetting off foreign countries for pleasure trips. Close bracket. One of his clients had been awarded $10 or $20 million in a civil rights lawsuit and had absolutely no clue how to handle having money. He'd buy 50 big screens, or buy out a movie theater for private performance, and other ridiculous things just because he could. He got the idea to start a business, delivery I think. But then he'd exhaust his divestment payment and needed money. So he then sold all the trucks for the business. destroying it. You could really read the advisor's frustration with the dude over the emails and letters. And my guess is that the fraud started when advisor figured that he could tap into the guy's funds and the guy would never even notice. 1. The client who joined an MLM and racked up $500,000 worth of losses before finally listening to us and quitting. 2. The client who spent $40K on Farmville over 3 months. 3. The clients who give their adult children allowances that exceed my salary. Fancy cars. And houses without expecting them to ever hold down a job themselves. Not a banker. But directly involved in a financial institution. Specifically loans. So many people determine whether they can afford something based on whether or not they can get a loan. Financial institutions will lend you far more than you really should borrow, especially if they have collateral. You can technically afford to make the payments. But little else. You should plan what you can comfortably afford based on your short-term and long-term goals. Not the bank. Probably not the worst. But one of the more perplexingly common. Making over $250K, sometimes well over. No withholding. Not paying estimated taxes throughout the year. Can't afford the tax bill with a return every year. Then bitching because they can't afford the installment payments on the taxes they owe from 2 years ago. Mothefka. Sell your gaudy ass McMansion. Take your teenage daughter's credit card away. Let your drunk driving son stay in jail and get a public defender. And tell your BTCH wife to stop spending all day at the tennis courts sipping mimosas. Get your shit together and pay taxes throughout the year like the rest of us. You aren't being persecuted by the IRS. You're just an idiot. I had a client in her 70s put her whole savings in Tilray stock. Tilray at the time was trading above 150 per share. I told her it was a terrible idea to put all of her savings in one investment, but she told me I was wrong. She argued with me for a good 15 minutes until I relented and said, okay, it's your money. So she put $300K into Tilray. Couple weeks later it starts dropping. I call her and get no answer. It's sitting at $6 a share now. Her account is down to about $12K. Last time I spoke with her I took no pleasure in telling her she's no longer my client. Best friend is a CPA. And when he had his own practice, he had some pretty big name clients, senators, musicians, pro athletes, etc. One of the biggest mistakes people made were thinking they were smarter than an accountant. His biggest challenge were the people who heard about the sovereign citizen nonsense. To no one's surprise, a random guy on YouTube doesn't know more than an actual CPA with 40+ years experience. At least a few of these newfound sovereign citizens ended up doing time for tax evasion. I had my former boss decide it was a great idea to buy land in Texas. Our company was based in PA. In the middle of nowhere because he talked to another business owner who told him it was going to take off. Myself and my co-worker advised against it, but things were slow and he didn't listen. At first it was going to be a place of operations, but then he decided we would just rent out rooms to the people who work down there in the oil industry. Dump loads of money, time, and blood, sweat, and tears into it for it to just go bust not even a year later. What I've seen countless times is someone who started a business with zero research, no understanding of what running a business involves. Here's a hint. Practically every business involves paperwork and deadlines. The business models come in waves. For a while it was barbecue shacks. Then it was cupcakes. Then house flippers. Then food trucks. I think they see it being done on TV shows that make it look fun. It isn't fun when they come to me with debt, tax levies and lawsuits, IRS and state labor department and health department on their backs, and suppliers taking them to court for unpaid bills. Some of them cashed out their retirement accounts to buy a business. Others put their house up as collateral for an SBA loan. It's a nightmare. If they had come to an accountant first, we might be able to help them, or even better, dissuade them. I usually see them after 18-24 months of screw ups, and by then it's usually too late to rescue them. Not an advisor. Here are the dumbest things I've done. 1. Hired a financial planner instead of learning basic investing. 2. Not putting my saving in low cost, expense ratio funds and instead complicating my portfolio with risk and cost. 3. Not staying fully investing during volatile market conditions and simply riding it out. 4. Repeatedly checking my accounts instead of set it and forget it. Banker. Banks charge fees for using other banks' ATMs. I had a customer that would check his balance and then do withdrawals daily at a foreign ATM. Guy did not have a lot of money to begin with, and because he did this, would overdraw his account and get slapped with an overdraft fee which put him in the hole further. We ended up taking away his ability to overdraw his account. Dude was pissed, but it helped right the ship a little. The number of fraud calls we have to deal with because the people go to a drugstore and buy thousands of dollars in iTunes cards to pay for their IRS bills astounds me even after 6 years in banking. And X200B. People are fucking dumb. I've had a client where I noticed this guy's credit debt always remained hovering $13K to $15K. I asked him why he only makes minimum payments on his credit card instead of paying it off. Because I see he has roughly $11K sitting in a bank account. Interest per month on that credit card bill is roughly $250. And according to his repayment patterns it will take him roughly 19 years to pay it all off. His answer to me is the bank charges him $7.99 per month for his bank account if his balance dips below $10K. So to save the $7.99 per month, this guy is paying $250 in interest on his credit card. I work for a bank. One of our branches had a customer who was basically homeless. Then he wins the lottery. Over the next few months, the staff watched him come in to withdraw thousands of dollars every day to spend on extravagances. Everyone tried to convince him to sit with a financial advisor to help him make the most of his money. Less than a year later, he's in slightly better shape than when he started. He's at least able to live in the car he bought. Clients had $2 million saved in their retirement accounts in early 2012. Got terrified of the market. Put 100% into gold at its prior all-time high and subsequent decline. At the same time they decided to fully pay for all 3 of their kids' undergrad PhD degrees using their retirement accounts. They now have about $100K left, are in their mid-70s and have to work until they die. I work corporate finance, not direct client stuff. My longest term job was at a franchisor, the person franchisees pays. We had one guy who wanted out. Our rules said that if you wanted to sell your franchise to someone, we had to approve them. This guy couldn't find anyone we'd approve, not because we were too strict. He was just finding people who had business histories which would likely be repeated and be damaging to the brand. So he called up one day to get a list of all his invoices, payments, and stuff for the last X years. When asked why, it was a lot of work and they had a portal where they could get their invoices. He told me he was adding a new partner to the business. I immediately messaged his area manager and when he's asking for his invoices for a new partner? I got back an instant no. I fobbed him off and the manager was on the phone to him in 5 minutes. Turns out the plan was for the new partner to just add money, act a silent partner, but in reality he was going to then drop out of the business and he'd have done a transfer without the approvals. Doesn't sound too horrible. Except that he nearly lost his franchise agreement. Which means he would have lost the entire business as we were his landlords. And therefore have had no business to sell. The other one was a franchisee who put fake VAT numbers on his receipts and wasn't paying it. He thought he was being clever. Each of his stores were below VAT registration level. But he ran them all under one company. So they were above mandatory threshold. He did lose his license and last I heard, got a few years behind bars for tax fraud. Financial planner here. Not one particular client, but far too often I see people make investment decisions based off of emotion. Primarily fear and greed. After a big drop in the market, people tend to sell out some, or even all, of their investments and wait for a good time, and frankly, it's a losing strategy. I remind my clients constantly that if you didn't predict the drop and did something before it happened, How will you predict when it will go back up? If you sold all of your investments in the S&P at the end of 2018 when it was down 20% due rising to U.S. conflict with Iran, and left the money out of the market until 2020, you would have lost out on nearly 49% returns. Make that same mistake a few more times over your life and you'll find yourself without the means to live the life you dreamed of. Had a lot of customers earlier this year who wanted to borrow from their home equity to invest in the stock market. Even had a couple people who said they wanted to invest half and stick the other half in a savings account and use that to make the payments. Which just seemed extra dumb. I'm an exec in asset and wealth management. Here's my favorite fact. Person A invests $500 a week from age 25 to 35 and then stops. Person B invests $500 a week from age 35 to 65. Historically, person A generally ends up with more money, despite person B saving for 3x as long. Compound growth is super powerful. Stocks double in inflated adjusted terms. Generally every 10 years. $1 invested at 25 is worth $16 at age 65. And this is inflation adjusted. In nominal terms it's even higher. So getting back to the topic prompt. Way too many people say they are too young to start saving for retirement. It's the exact opposite. If you wait too long, it's too late. There are just so many. I'd say the biggest one is declaring bankruptcy to get out of debt. I don't know when people started getting this misconception. But bankruptcy lawyers are after your money, not what is best for you. And will happily let you make a huge mistake if it profits them. I have seen a lot of people who were just making a small stumble declare bankruptcy and ruin their financial futures. I'm just a bank teller. But the one thing I see all of the time is people giving their account number to people they don't know. There is absolutely no reason to give someone your account number. There was a situation a few weeks ago where an older lady gave her account information to someone that owed her money. The next day, she got a direct deposit for $50. 000. Unfortunately, we didn't catch it until she came in a week later wanted to take out $6. 000. We quickly froze her account after we noticed the money was for an economic injury disaster loan, EIDL. But only after she used $5. 000. We had to close her accounts and now she owes that money back to the bank. If something doesn't look right, report it to your bank. Financial advisor here. So many over the years. Basically boiling down to people trying to get rich quick. Whenever markets go up, everyone thinks they're an expert. Property never goes down. My mate told me about this great stock. When markets go down, people cash out too late and stay in cash too long. One specific case involved a woman who won lotto. $500 K Australian, decent size but not huge. She then proceeded to overcapitalize her house by doing $300 K of improvements to a $250 K home. This was in the 1990s, and gave $25 K each to her builder and a tradie after they told her sob stories about needing money. Builder bought a jet ski and tradie a motorbike. She came to me with $50 K left asking what she should do. Buried. But I used to work payroll. For some reason my first year in December a bunch of employees adjusted their tax withholding to single instead of the married head of household dependents statuses they had. They thought just marking their W4 as withholding at the single rate could give them a better return. That's not how that works. If you actually withhold at that rate you will have a larger return because you withheld too much from your check. Long story short, someone explained withholding extra to everyone and they just horribly misunderstood. I spent 3 years talking people out of doing this. I got it down from about a dozen to a single holdout that refused to listen to me and I had to change his withholding every year. Financial advisor here. I shouldn't have to say it, but this client continually decided to do the opposite of what I told him to do at all turns. He planned to retire in 2011 age 65. In the midst of the financial crisis in 2008. He decided it was a great idea to suddenly retire and liquidate his entire IRA. He was convinced he would lose all of his retirement savings. It had recently dropped around $150k in value. So he cashed out the remaining $400k in one distribution. Hello new tax bracket. Since he wasn't ready to retire and needed the income, he elected to start receiving Social Security at 62 YO, giving him the lowest payment. He then decided that he can't afford his current house. Even though it had lost about 1/3 of its value, I think went from $300k to $200k. He refused to wait for the value to recover and sold it ASAP. This guy cost himself hundreds of thousands of dollars and was convinced that he was a genius for supposedly saving himself from financial ruin. A 94-year-old woman withdrew a $540,000 annuity that she thought was a tax-free life insurance policy. She owed the IRS over $90,000 and the state of Michigan $14,000. When I explained it was an annuity and not a life insurance policy, she panicked. What was done and we just had to mitigate the damage.